Right, in assembling a model wagon fleet for a layout, we've got a number of sources we can draw on, but it's very important not to lose sight of the overall objective, which is to get a fleet of wagons which is balanced, prototypical, and above all homogeneous, so they all look as though they come from the same source and are running in the same environment. It's very easy to get wagons, some of which look bright and shiny, some of them were weathered, not very convincing. The main sources for model wagons are firstly, of course, the ready-to-run makers, and this is a sample of the current production of ready-to-run, a Bachmann branch line, blue ribboned. I thought that was for crossing the Atlantic, but and a model like this, the most difficult thing is getting it out of the packaging. But when you get it out, you've got a vehicle here which, not so very many years ago, would have been a prize-winning model. It's completely accurate in all its major dimensions. It has the appropriate underframe. It is in an authentic livery, which is very well reproduced, but far better than, in fact, most people would do it by hand. And it's pretty much a scale model as it comes. So we don't have to do a lot to a model like that. But not all ready-to-run wagons are current production. There's still quite a lot of them around that have been around for quite a few years, and so they're a little bit less up to the mark. This is an example of an older ready-to-run wagon. In fact, it's pretty vintage. This is a Daypole wagon, now available from Daypole, but the body actually is the old Hornby double O moulding dating right back to the late 50s. That said, the quality of them was so good even then that it can stand comparison with the current production. The thing you've got to watch with the older ready-to-run wagons is a lot of them are fundamentally inaccurate in terms of dimensions and in terms of the features that are represented on them. This one, however, is a pretty accurate body moulding of the standard Great Western design, but it's the BR version, steel-ended, 12-ton box van. Very, very useful vehicle. One problem with ready-to-run wagons is that, for obvious reasons, the makers tend to go for the rather more glamorous prototypes. Here's a good example. This is Lima's version of the six-wheeled milk tank. A pretty good model on the whole. One or two problems with it in terms of scale fidelity, but nothing that can't be sorted. But not exactly a typical wagon, not something you would see everywhere. What's quite difficult to get hold of from the ready-to-run makers are the real basic wagons. Vans are not too bad. Here's Bachmann's version, one of Bachmann's versions of the Southern 12-ton box van, a very widespread design made in very large numbers. But the wagon we really need in very large quantities is this chap, the 5-plank open merchandise wagon. This is an old Airfix model dating from the late 70s, perpetuated by Bachmann for a while, but no longer available. Which is a pity, because actually it's the most useful ready-to-run wagon I think you could buy. Please, Mr. Bachmann or Mr. Daypole or somebody, bring it back because we need it. The 5-plank open merchandise wagon is in fact the most important vehicle we need. The only wagon 5-plank body available at the moment ready to run is this one. This again is Daypole, from the old Hornby double O moulding yet again, but this is a very untypical example. So it's something to be aware of, that quite a lot of the wagons that the ready-to-run makers have picked as prototypes are rather rare. They're rather rare beasts. So we can't assemble an entire wagon fleet from ready-to-run models and make it authentic. The other main source of wagons for a 4mm and certainly for a 7mm layout is kits. And wagon kits have been around for a long time. When I started out my modelling career back in the dark days, this was a wagon kit. This is an ERG Masterpiece card kit. There we are, that's what you got. 2 bits of cardboard with some printing on and a double-sided razor blade, and away you went, and a jar of shellac. That was a wagon kit. Things have got a bit more sophisticated since then. What we generally think of when we talk about wagon kits is the plastic wagon kit, of which there are many examples for all sorts of prototypes. This is the granddaddy of them all, probably the most influential wagon kit. The BR 16-ton mineral wagon, the most numerous wagon on the real railways, hundreds of thousands of the things. And Airfix produced this kit back in the 60s, 2 bob, 2 shillings. And we could all afford a big fleet of mineral wagons. And in fact, it's only comparatively recently that a more authentic model of a mineral wagon has come along. And it's only comparatively recently that there's been a ready-to-run mineral wagon which was anywhere near as accurate as this model. Very influential model. Another long established name, Ratio. They started to make plastic wagon kits back in the late 50s. This is a very useful example. The Southern box van, again, a very prevalent design, but this is a variant. This is a ply-sided version, so it enables you to ring the changes. Private owner wagons, again, a very large class of vehicle. This is a slightly off-the-wall one, and this is a China clay wagon, Gloucester China clay wagon. But there's a very big selection of private owner wagons available from Slaters and particularly Cambrian, many of which are pre-painted with the lettering on the side already prepared for you. Cambrian kits are a little bit more basic, but still very good basis to work on, and some more unusual prototypes. And this is a Great Western Loco coal wagon, and here we have a Southern 8 plank 10-ton wagon, a useful variant. Another big name in kits is Parkside, who make a lot of the staple vehicles that any modeller of the BR and grouping period is going to need. Here's the mineral wagon again, but this is a different version of it. This is a riveted mineral wagon. They also do slope-sided, welded, and the SNCF variants of the mineral wagon. So with the kits we've got available, we can cover pretty much any option. Again, another very useful kit. This is the BR standard 5-plank open merchandise wagon built in the 50s, sort of the last generation of them. But again, any BR layout needs quite a few of those. The plastic kits also cover some of the more obscure prototypes. This is foremost. This is a Lancashire and Yorkshire large capacity coal wagon. Again, not a wagon you would have seen on every railway, restricted in use, but an accurate and useful model for a Lancashire and Yorkshire or LMS modeller. And another big range, specialising more in the older subjects, pre-grouping, Coopercraft. This is their Great Western cattle van, a lovely model, very high quality, all these kits. So that's plastic kits. There are other kit mediums. One of them is the white metal kit. This is a relatively recent example, and again, white metal production lends itself to short runs, obscure prototypes, very straightforward tooling process, so it tends to be restricted to the more obscure prototypes. This is a Lancashire and Yorkshire wagon. As I haven't got my glasses on, I can't see which one, but this sort of range will typically include some unusual prototypes. The last type of kit is the etched brass kit, which is more suited to vans and is in this case a brake van, a Lancashire and Yorkshire brake van, but they're also quite prevalent for implement wagons, flat wagons, and some types of van are presented in etched kits. And a more recent development has been the production of resin bodies, and as you can see there's 2 examples here. This is a very specialised example. This is one produced by Simon de Souza for the Highland Railway Society and is a pre-grouping prototype. And this method of production again lends itself to very short runs, economical production of the more obscure prototypes. This is a more mainstream resin body, and as you can see, this one, which comes from Powersides, is already painted and lettered with a private owner livery. So all the modeller's got to do is to put some running gear on that. It's only when you get to the rarer and more exotic prototypes that you're going to run out of options in terms of kits all ready to run, and we come to the scratch-built wagon. There's a couple of examples here, both of them built in plasticard. Here we have a Cambrian Railways brake van, definitely a glamorous example of the genre. Built from drawings which were published in the Model Railway News many years ago, in fact. This is a North Staffordshire Railway low-sided open. again, built-in plasticard with running gear built up onto the floor, which is a common technique for wagon modelling. Here we have 4 wagons off my own layout, my own fleet, or various. These are used on various layouts, but the whole object of the exercise with these models is to get them all looking as though they belong in the same scene. So here we have a plastic kit wagon, a Parkside mineral wagon. This is an etch kit for an LMS brake van. A Lima ready to run vehicle which has been modified and re-wheeled and generally brought up to specification. And here is a cast white metal wagon kit. This is an ABS foremost LNER fitted open. They've all been brought to a common standard, and I think that's one of the most important points with wagon modelling is you need to sort of come up with a common specification, both a running specification and a visual specification. Now all these have the same sort of running gear on them. You see, these are obviously wagons that I've converted for Proto 4, so they have some form of rocking W-iron, simple compensation on them, variations on the theme, but all basically done in the same way. A little bit trickier is this one being a 6-wheeled vehicle which has a compensating beam in it, and again the basic W-iron arrangement on there. Obviously that's just a personal requirement of mine because I'm working to a finer scale standard. I get more reliable running with the rocking W-irons, but you can get away without them. These days I would reckon that if you could bring all your wagons to the standard of Mr. Bachmann's out of the box mineral wagon here, you'd be doing pretty well. And certainly to bring some of the older wagons and some of the older wagon kits and certainly the older ready to run wagons up to the same sort of visual standard as this is going to have to be quite a bit of work done to get them looking of a piece.